to doing with Word or Google Docs. And then guided learning, if you haven't used this and you have kids, I highly recommend using it to help them with your homework. In particular, I was never the best at math, and my daughter takes very advanced math that I don't understand. And so when she asks me for help, I use guided learning so I can help her because I have no idea how to do the math that she's doing. So these are tools, though, that are built into these models. And so the models aren't just text anymore. It's not just language, but that language model is still the basis for all these other capabilities. So we see this playing out in images and video. This is an example of Midjourney, but this is the kind of thing you can create with Gemini and ChatGPT now. We're seeing this impact commercial applications. So this is an example of an ad that was created for Kelsey during the NBA finals this ran. And any ads you see now for Kelsey, they're all created with generative AI technology. Now, the average person watching that ad would have no idea that this wasn't actually filmed or at least done with CGI or, traditional technology. So the world is changing, and most people are unaware of what is actually happening and the technology that's allowing it. Voice, every year we keep waiting and saying, okay, maybe this is the year of voice. Voice technology is getting extremely good. It's changing the way we interact with our devices. And certainly there's at least a possibility that the future generation just becomes predominantly voice. Like the way they communicate with their devices is largely through voice. So that the idea that you would type something out might be really weird to them. So you're starting to see that. One of the other big things that happened in 2025 was the ability for these models to have computer vision and understanding of the world around them. This is how like Meta's Ray-Ban glasses work. This is how Google glasses will work. They'll be coming out with new versions of that. Apple is rumored to be working on new glasses that'll come out probably in 2027. You can do exactly what we're seeing here on your phone in Gemini. You can just go to live video. You can do it in ChatGPT, and the camera sees, and then the model understands, and you can talk to it, and it sees what you're seeing. If you haven't done it, it's incredible technology. Just sort of like came out and people moved on with their lives and didn't really realize how significant it was, but it lives right there in the app you already have access to. So here's how OpenAI thinks about the stages of AI. Now, my guess is they have evolved this slightly, but they have not disclosed that if they have. This was leaked through Bloomberg last year, and then they eventually confirmed that this was indeed their internal stages of AI. So level one was what we got in late 2022. That was chatbots, text in, text out. In September 2024, the world interacted with a reasoning model for the first time. That was the O1 model from OpenAI. A reasoning model allows the model to go through a chain of thought. It allows it to think. And so if you go into Google Gemini today, it says they call theirs a thinking model. It'll tell you the process it's going through. I'm going to go do this now. I'm going to do that now. And so I'll show you an example of that in a moment. And then the next level is agents. We are very firmly in the midst of the year of agents where they start becoming very real. Last year was probably still pretty early, and they were probably a little bit more overhyped than reality. That doesn't mean they weren't starting to change things. It just meant that the marketing messaging was a little bit ahead of the actual capabilities of the models and the agents. So an agent, because this can create a lot of confusion, what exactly it is. All the labs have their own definitions of agents. But think of it as an AI system that can actually take action. So it doesn't just output something, it can do something. It can go through a list of 10 tasks and do them for you, rather than you having to guide it and prompt it through everything. The confusion around agents predominantly comes from how autonomous they are. So this is where when they first really started being talked about in like late 2023 into 2024 and a lot in 2025, they were presented by a lot of the tech companies as binary, meaning like it was or wasn't autonomous. And that was never the case. There are degrees of autonomy, meaning how much the human has to be in the loop. And I like the thing I always explain is the closest parallel would be like self-driving cars. And what is the human's job in that car? Does the human have to have their hand on the wheel the whole time? Or are you just sitting in the back seat of a Waymo and it's doing its own thing? That's the closest example. So, like, I have a Tesla and I've had one for 7 years, largely to monitor the self-driving, and it has gotten extremely good. But if I were to take my trip from Cleveland to Chicago today that I had planned in the snow, it would be useless because it depends on outward facing cameras to do what it does. So the human has to be in the loop. So the autonomy slides all the way back on the scale, and it's a useless technology. I think that's how agents are largely going to work in business. They're going to have degrees of autonomy, and at times the human's going to have to take the wheel more often than not. That isn't how they're marketed to you, though. So that's the big thing to understand with agents is how autonomous are they? And then where are their weaknesses? Again, this is the other thing people aren't educated on. There are lots of flaws with agents. Even when you think that they have largely autonomous capabilities, they still lack a lot of things that are really important to understand if you're going to use them in your business. Now, it may sound like I'm not bullish on agents the way I'm explaining this. That is not true. I'm literally designing an organizational chart right now, like I was working on it yesterday, where I am starting to infuse AI agents into the organizational chart. So I'm as bullish, as anybody, but I'm also realistic about what they're capable of. So it's going to matter. You need to understand them. It's going to become more real to a lot of people this year, but we have to be realistic about what they actually are and what they're capable of doing. So one of the best examples I can give you on reasoning and agents mixed together is deep research. So if you haven't done a deep research project, this is what it looks like. You go in, you give it a prompt. I want to do research on this topic. It puts together an action plan. So again, these are actions the agent is going to go do. It's then going to perform those 10 things. So you can see the show thinking, that's the reasoning process. So now what we're seeing is what the agent is thinking and doing. It's going to now go visit these websites, then it's going to summarize this thing. And at the end, after about 10 minutes, I have a 34-page report on the impact of reasoning in the future of marketing. That's an example of an agentic process that is using reasoning to create an output that a human would then have to go through and verify before you would ever publish this. So like we didn't publish this report because I never went through and verified all of the citations to make sure it was legitimate. This is something at SmarterX we are actively doing is we are trying to figure out how to scale up the use of deep research technology in addition to human verification processes. So we're building a research team that specifically leverages this kind of technology, but with deep human engagement all along the process. And we're trying to figure out kind of what that looks like in the future. Okay, how do you get started? I'm going to try and move a little quicker. I'm telling a lot of stories here that I usually don't tell. All right, so two primary ways to get started, problem-based model and use case model. So in the problem-based model, you have a known pain point or challenge. I like to think of this as sort of like the director level and above model. This is the one where you have goals within the organization, you have workflows you're trying to solve, you have challenges that are you're not able to meet or achieve, and so you're trying to figure out how do we solve this in a more intelligent way. So in any problem-based model, you want to have a problem statement and you want to have a value statement. What is it worth to solve this? The reason the value statement is so critical is because if you sit down and brainstorm all the problems you're having in your organization across all these different areas, and it doesn't matter if you're in marketing, sales, management, customer service, whatever it is, you will come up with a list easily of 5 to 10 things that are causing you to lose sleep at night. So when you put a value statement with them, you can then figure out which ones are actually worth your time to solve. So to make this kind of more efficient for people, I built something called Problems GPT that will actually walk you through this process. It'll help you define the problem statements, and then it'll actually develop strategic briefs to help you figure out how AI can work with you to solve those problems. So this is a free GPT. It is built on top of ChatGPT, so it uses ChatGPT technology if you're not familiar with how GPTs work, but you can go there and experiment with Problems GPT yourself. The use case model is for everybody. So this is like a professional practitioner level. You're trying to find quick win pilot projects. Now, I think of this as like an ongoing thing. Like we're just always doing this. It's not like you do this once, you find your 3 projects, and then you move on. You're always looking at what you or your team does and saying, okay, what do we do that's data-driven, repetitive, making a prediction, or creating something, image, text, video, audio, code. And you're trying to find the sweet spot. So it can be just one of these variables. It doesn't have to be all of them. And so when we think about our jobs, if we break it down into a bundle of tasks, and then you take those tasks and you start to find ways to infuse this. So like as an example, so I was thinking about like performance insights as part of the organizational design. Everybody in our company is in charge of like KPIs and should know how they're performing every day. And they should be having insights into it. And if something's not working, they should know that. Well, that stuff just lives in spreadsheets and dashboards, and like no one does stuff with that. So I'm trying to figure out how to infuse AI into everyone's role so that that task of performance management and insights happens every day in an autonomous way, and it's presented to the team every morning so they can now act differently in their day. They can adapt what they're going to do based on that data potentially. That needs AI to make it happen. And so that's a task that I'm starting to really look at. So Jobs GPT is another custom GPT that I created where you can go in and just put a title, you can put a job description, or you can actually have this thing go through and forecast the impact on new jobs, like jobs that could be created. But what this does is it takes those things and it tries to assess at a task level how AI could assist. This can also be used by leaders to try and project out the impact AI might have on different roles. So if you have an FTE today and you look and say, well, AI could do 30% of what that full-time employee does, we should be proactive in thinking about that. I'm not saying you should be replacing that person, but we have to be realistic that the AI is increasingly capable of doing tasks that make up people's jobs. The other way to think about this is at a campaign or workflow level, where if you break those into a series of tasks, then you can start to find ways to use AI. So our podcast is obviously a big part of what we do to grow our audience at SmarterX. And every week there's dozens of tasks that are performed to do that across a team of, there's me and Mike and Claire and Kathy largely. So we have like 4 people that work on the podcast. And so we try and find ways in the planning and production aspect to infuse AI where we can. Obviously, the podcast itself is the human part. It's me and Mike showing up for an hour and a half each week and having the conversation. But anywhere else that we can use the AI, we think about that all the time. And we're constantly trying to improve upon that. And so again, another free custom GPT you can use, Campaigns GPT, same deal. It just basically helps you try and figure out campaigns related to what it is you do, and then it recommends ways you could be infusing AI to help you with that. So moving forward, the question becomes, what is the human going to do and what is the machine going to do? When we think about work, and if we think about it again at that like task or tactical level, where is the AI gonna help? And so if I think about my own job as a CEO and like what are the things where I would love it if AI could get me to like level 3? Like it's not a task I really enjoy doing. It's not something that needs to be authentic because it's not a public facing thing. It's like an internal strategy I'm building. Like if AI can get me 90% of the way there, let's go. Like I want to do that. I want to start making decisions and I want to start taking actions. I don't want to spend all my time doing the discovery work necessarily if I don't see value in that. Then there's other things like my LinkedIn post, my editorial and my newsletter each week, this webinar, like that's all me. Like I have no use of AI in that. I want to do the writing. I want to do the thinking. So that's a level 0 to me. Even if the AI can do the work, I don't want it to. And so that's the interesting thing is like we get that choice. We get to decide, even when the AI is capable of it, do we actually want to use it for that? And that's where there aren't perfect answers a lot of times. And different people make different decisions when it comes to where they're going to infuse AI into their organization and into their own work each day. So the key takeaway here is a little bit of AI can go a really long way to making an impact, not just reducing costs, but actually accelerating growth if we take an innovation mindset to it. All right, so as we wind down, I'll leave at least 20 minutes here for questions. The key from here is, what are you trying to do? So we think about our work at SmarterX. A lot of times when I talk with organizations and individuals, I'm basically trying to like guide them. There's 2 fundamental things you can be trying to achieve. One is your own personal transformation. So you want to be a change agent. You want to be a leader in all this. You want to be the one who figures it out and applies it to your career and helps other people. So you're trying to find those use cases, those technologies. You're trying to every day get a little bit, more capable with this stuff, a little bit more comfortable with it. And you're trying to kind of advance your career or build your own thing, like maybe break off from an organization that isn't figuring this out and go do it yourself. The second is you might be thinking about business transformation. Maybe your organization is doing some piloting of this. They're seeing some early success, but it's still not scaled across the company. And a lot of departments are lagging behind. There's 30% of the staff who want nothing to do with this. Like, this is the hard part. The change management that goes into this is very, very hard. We talk to lots of companies. I have personally advised a number of companies that you would assume, based on who they are and the industries they're in, are the ones that have this all figured out. And I can promise you, I have yet to meet one that does. Everyone is trying to figure this out, even the people you think already have. So we are all going through some form of business transformation. We are all trying to figure out what change management looks like in this. And the only thing I can tell people is this is the fundamental path to do it. You have to have comprehension, not just you individually, your team across the organization. You have to have a deeper understanding of what it is and what it's capable of. You have to test it yourself all the time in your work, in your personal life. You have to be experimenting with it. You have to give yourself the space to figure out these things. And the only way to do it, like, I've heard about Lovable for 6 months. I had never truly understood the significance of what it was doing, and tools like Replit, Lovable, others, until a week ago when I actually sat down and built something myself. And now I have a totally different perspective on where we are with agents and where this all goes. That's the competency part. That's like doing the work of actually experimenting. And then you can develop mastery, which is like this. It's more aspirational in my opinion, but it's this idea of like a high level of proficiency to where you could help other people. Like, that's kind of like the simplest definition I have of it, is like, I think I'm there when I can help other people, like some degree of mastery. I can pull other people along. So when we think about like our role at SmarterX and how do we accelerate this literacy and transformation, this is the thing we know. Every year we ask this question. Last year we had over 1,800 people answer this about the barriers to adoption, and education and training is always number one. Lack of awareness and understanding is number two, and that actually drives the lack of education, because if leaders aren't aware and fully understanding, they're not going to prioritize education. When we ask specifically, do you have internal AI focused education or training? Only 32% say yes. So that is what we focus on. In addition to, our events and our research and our podcast, a big, an enormous part of the future of our company is trying to accelerate literacy through online education. So that's where this intro class, our free scaling class that we do, we have all kinds of things where we try and help people along. And so AI Academy by SmarterX is sort of the cornerstone of that effort. We launched a new learning management platform in November. So we've been doing online education for about, I guess, 6 years now. But we have a whole new vision and roadmap for how to help people go along their personal and business transformation journeys. And so that's what you can find at AI Academy by SmarterX. So we have thousands of members already. There's individual mastery memberships that you can do. There's 9 certifications. I think we just launched the 10th actually. So there's 10 course certifications already, professional certificates. We release a new Gen AI app review every week. So there's new content all the time. And then we do monthly live sessions that are exclusive to mastery members. And then new at the end of last year, our business plans, where if you're buying 5 or more licenses, there's deep discounts and all kinds of other benefits. But you can inquire about business plans right now. So just go to academy.smarterx.ai and you can learn all about what we're doing. And then if we have any mastery members on with us today, and you don't know about this, you don't have to be a mastery member to see this, but we publish all the new content on the Academy blog. So you can see just the velocity of things that are coming out all the time with the new app reviews and certificates. So whether it's Academy or continuing to take free classes or taking classes from other great learning platforms like LinkedIn Learning and Coursera, like there's endless places to go get this stuff. And what I would say to you is just do something, whatever that is. If it's podcasts, newsletters, courses, however you learn best, keep challenging yourself to push forward on your learning journey, because you have an enormous opportunity to be a change agent in your company, because the future of all of this is human plus AI, and that is happening right now. So, as I welcome Kathy back, I'll give you two final things. These are both free learning opportunities. We are launching our 2026 Marketing Talent AI Impact Report on January 27th. You can register for that right now. And then we have our AI for Agencies Summit. This is our third annual AI for Agencies Summit. This is also a free registration option. This is a half-day event on February 12th. You can go to aiforagencies.com to learn more about that. And with that, I will welcome back Kathy McPhillips.
Nice job, even with the stories.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, I'm telling too many stories.
Now we've got some really good questions, so I'm just going to jump right in. Okay, this is funny. Not funny, also, slash not funny. Frank is asking if the
Okay.
five big labs creating this technology, how is it possible they don't really know how it works?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not over exaggerating here. It's like alien tech. Like they just don't know. They know. Um, this might be like a bit of a lofty analogy. It's kind of like gravity. We know it's there. We know what it does. We don't know why it does it. It's something like that. Like they just know that the more they give it, the smarter it seems to get. The more NVIDIA chips they use to train it, um, it just learns. So they have basic concepts of it, like they know the levers to pull and things like that. But why it learns and whether it's aware of its own learning, like we don't know. And there are the most advanced leaders in this industry do not agree on these things. Like Jeff Hinton, who started the whole deep learning movement in 2011, thinks they're conscious to a degree already. Other leaders think that's crazy.
Hmm.
And this isn't me like observing and researching and commenting on this. This is the people in these labs building them that aren't in agreement about what exactly it is that they have built and what it truly is capable of. So it's just a weird technology that we truly don't fully understand how it does what it does or why it does what it does.
Yeah,
And I know that's unnerving, but it's just the reality of
that's the
where we are.
reality. Yeah. Okay, our friend Gwen is asking, is there a reason Grok isn't on the dimensions of AI progress list?
So the dimensions of AI progress are more specific things that all the labs are using. So I don't, it might not be the right slide we're referencing there, but Grok would be a lab that would also be using that. But Grok is XAI's platform. So XAI was on my company's building models list. Grok is the model that they're building. It's like the Chat GPT or Claude, basically. So yeah, and
Got it.
it's also not widely used as a business tool. So it often doesn't get as much attention on our stuff as others.
Okay. This is a good question. In the context of emerging technologies and technological displacement, what are future insights that can be shared as it relates to new jobs created by AI that will impact all industries, especially marketing?
Yeah, this is the trillion dollar question is like what happens next? What are those new jobs? I mean, we're starting to see some like AI ops is one of the early ones. Even in 2023, we started seeing it. And basically, ops meaning someone who understands AI enough to look at current workflows and technology stacks and say, hey, AI could do this smarter, and we should like infuse AI in these stages. So that was a really logical early thing. Um, I think more than anything, what we're seeing is evolutions of current roles. Like that's the most tangible thing. So, like I just said, like we're building out a research team that very specifically focuses on the integration of AI technology into research. Now, we could call them AI content researchers or what I don't know, like I don't want to call them an AI researcher because that implies they're building the tech, but we could call them an AI whatever. In reality, it's an evolution of researchers. And so I think more than anything, we're seeing people who were doing a thing like PJ Ace is an example, the guy who created the Calci ad that I showed, who spoke at MakeCon this year. He calls himself an AI filmmaker. Well, he was a filmmaker before AI. It's just like he uses AI to do filmmaking. So I think most of what we'll see in the next year or two is largely AI being added to an existing role or profession, and sometimes distinguishing the fact that the person has deep AI knowledge and capabilities by adding AI to the title. Now, down the road, like I could see within our research firm, for example, hiring AI verification experts. Those are people who specifically take deep research outputs and verify things. Now, that's not unlike a traditional editor who did verification of facts and things, but like it's an AI like, so I don't know. Jobs GPT. I was trying to actually look out ahead, and I would encourage you to go play with that. It's pretty cool. Like put any job in there, say a writer, an SEO expert, a sales executive, and look at the forecast due jobs. It comes up with really clever things that do widen your mind about what might happen and what might be possible.
Upskilling, adding some new job, you know, tactics,
In
responsibilities
most
to your
cases,
existing
yes.
staff.
Yeah, that's my theory at the moment would be that is largely what's going to happen. I mean, we've seen this. Like we saw someone at a company we did some work with who was like 13 years or whatever as a project manager who became like the AI ops person because they knew the company deeply, they knew the tech stack, they knew procurement processes. And so like to that organization, that person's background became a perfect fit for this new thing that was needed. We're seeing that with chief AI officers. They're not necessarily technical people. They're not necessarily coming out of IT. It's someone who has strong business acumen, like understands business problems deeply, understands markets and products and customers, and understands AI enough to know when they see something that needs a smarter approach, a better workflow, things like that. So I don't know. I mean, that it's a really interesting space to watch, but most of what I've been seeing so far is I'm just going to make a word here, the AIification
Right.
of existing roles where you are just, yeah, reskilling someone um, to move
And to
into
your
that
point about the
role.
person who is the AI ops person at an enterprise, they were showing genuine interest and curiosity in learning about AI and being that person in the
Totally.
organization.
And I don't know about you, Kathy. I mean, you talk to a lot of people as well. Oftentimes, what I'm hearing is it is those early movers who just took an interest in it, raised their hand to start an AI council, have no technical background a lot of times, and they just created AI roles for themselves because all these companies need AI savvy people and don't have them. Like AI savvy business people don't have them. So when they like all of a sudden like, oh, this person has 5 certificates from AI Academy, like they actually know their stuff. They helped create the AI Council. Like, let's put them in a new position. Or that person comes and says, hey, I've been studying AI for the last year. Here's what I think we could do as a company. Seeing a lot of roles being created from the bottom up where someone just took the initiative and raised their hand and said, I'd love to have a greater role in this. And they're like, go for it. We don't know what we're doing.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, how do you decide not to use AI in a process?
For me, on
Recording in
something.
progress.
And so I kind of filter it in that way. It's like authenticity really matters here, so it needs to be me. And I can only use AI to assist in these ways. It cannot do the actual hard work. Another one is when I need to go through the process of thinking. Like I can help it. You know, I think I told the story on episode 190 of was it the channel program? I think I maybe shared about how we were building that. And that was a totally collaborative process between me and the AI. I will make all the final decisions. I will approve anything that goes out. We will work together as a team, go through the whole thing. But that was 100% a collaboration between me and the AI because I just needed to get to decision points faster. Now, if I was going to share like our responsible AI manifesto as example. 100% wrote that myself.
Hmm.
Zero AI, and I would do it again today that way. Like there are just things where it has to be me, and but I don't. It's going to be a different thing for everybody. There's like a lot of people, like I know a lot of people in the education space who are all about using AI avatars to present their courses. The day that happens, I will retire. For me, like I'm done. Like if I ever got to the point where I put an AI avatar out instead of myself, it's over. that doesn't mean it's wrong for other people. That just means that it loses the authenticity of the intention of the output.
And I think one of the important things that I would like just to reiterate that you said is that the times you don't use it is when you really, really want to think, when you need to know that
Yeah.
topic backwards and forwards before you even start to do it. You don't use that as like, teach me. You're like, I'm going to go do all the hard work and then I'm going to come over to the AI and see how it can enhance what I'm doing, augment my work.
Yeah, yeah. And I might tell a story on the podcast next week, but yeah, it's changing. Like I'm trying to figure this out as just like everybody else is, but I'll talk about this idea of like AI overload. And like we have all these conversations, we do all this planning with AI, and in some cases, like because I didn't write the thing myself, I didn't print out and read the way I used to read it, and like I'm not going through the same process. I'm finding like things don't stick as much in my brain. I like forget I did the thing before, or like created the strategy already, or thought about the problem already because it was just somewhere in a thread in ChatGPT at a random time. So I'm myself kind of grappling with this like, wow, even sometimes when I use them for efficiency, it ends up not being that efficient because I got to go back and redo the work. So I don't know. I mean, I think we're all kind of figuring this out together, and that's part of what we try and do with the community and with these classes. Like, let's just have these open, honest conversations because I don't have all the answers, that's for sure. Like, I'm just like everybody else trying to kind of each day figure out how work is changing.
Yeah. And when you talk about the community, that when you were talking about jobs, what are job titles? What are new job responsibilities? Our community is so open and honest and
Yeah.
sharing all these things within our community on a daily basis. So, we share everything that we know when you're doing these classes and things like that, but there's a much broader 10,000, 11,000 person community we have in Slack that is having a lot of these same conversations.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, what is responsible AI and why is it important to keep in mind when using these emerging technologies?
So, how people would define responsible AI is going to differ based on their belief systems, their morals, their company values. Like again, there's no one right answer. I referenced the Responsible AI Manifesto that I published in January 2023, and that was a set of beliefs for our organization. It was 12. I put that out under Creative Commons because I thought it was a reasonable starting point for other people. And if it could help accelerate responsible AI adoption, then I'll, have at it, take it, edit it, do whatever you want with it. So, I mean, for us, I would say the simplest way to think about it is it means taking a human-centered approach and what is the how is the action we're going to take, the decision we're going to make, the thing we're going to do with AI benefit people. And if at the end of the day, if it's not benefiting people in our view for what we're trying to do, it's the wrong thing. And so a tangible example of that would be let's go get this thing, this AI tool, so we can lay off 20% of our staff. That would not be a human-centered approach to AI, in my opinion. um, let's go get this thing so we can empower our people to increase output 20% while working the same or less. Is a human-centered approach. How do we amplify their capabilities? How do we give time back so they can work on the things they really enjoy? How do we get rid of the mundane things they don't like doing and like get them working on the fulfilling things that keep them inspired and make them want to stay here for another 10 years? Like, I mean, it might sound like unrealistic in some cases, and I get it if you work for like a PE owned company or a VC funded company or a publicly traded company under tremendous quarterly financial pressures. Like that's not the reality for you. And I understand that, but that's not most companies. And I think a lot of companies will make really good choices to use AI in a very positive way for their people and their customers and their communities and things like that. So that's what we're going to do. Like, and I
Mm,
hope try and set like an example of what's possible and like take an optimistic view on this versus the doomsday view that like we're all just out of work in 5 years. Doesn't have to be that
right.
way.
Yep. Okay. What are the latest AI regulations we need to consider when using AI for work, content, or image creation for our clients?
I mean, at the highest level, um, talk to your IP attorneys. So we're going to focus on the creative outputs and the things we need to consider. To stay on the responsible AI front for a second, I guess, you have to make the moral decision of, they stole all kinds of copyrighted material to build these models. That is undisputable. Like they stole the stuff. Every one of them did it. Anthropic is paying out massive penalties right now, like at $1.5 billion for pirating copyrighted books to train Claude. So there's legal precedent saying they did this stuff. Every other company did it. They've all, taken YouTube transcripts they weren't supposed to take. They've taken everything. So you got a choice. Like you can morally object to that and choose not to use the technology, or we can all kind of accept that, all right, well, that's kind of where we're at in society. That's how the models were trained. Then moving forward, you have to decide, like, are we comfortable putting out images or using video technology knowing it was trained on this copyrighted material? Copyright law may change and it may eventually say that that was okay that they did that. So that's one part of it. The other part is, do you own the copyright to whatever you create? The short answer is probably not, but those laws are evolving, and depending on the country you're in, it changes. Like Japan, for example, has much less restriction on IP technology in relation to AI outputs and training. The United States is moving very heavily in favor of the AI labs, and which isn't great for copyright holders and creators. It's basically in the US, you can kind of assume, unless there's a massive shift in public policy and the administration itself, that the creators are lower on the rung than the people building the models, and by a lot. So those rights are going to keep going away. But I would say the main thing is make sure with your IP attorneys, if you want to own a copyright to the thing you're going to create, like a logo, for example, that you're doing it the right way and you're going to be able to do that, or you're going to be able to maintain a copyright on a course you're going to create or a book you're going to write, things like that. Because if you use AI to write the book and you just edited it, you do not own that copyright in the US. Like, because when
Yeah.
you submit something for a copyright, you have to disclose whether or not you used AI. And if you have a good IP attorney, they're going to force you to be honest and tell them where you used AI. And you're going to have to disclose all of that. And you likely will not get the copyright you think you're going to get,
Yeah.
or
So
the
in our AI,
trademark, or whatever it is.
yeah. In the AI for Agency Summit, we're having Samantha Jordan from Torah Law, who's
Yeah.
going to be talking about a lot of these things, specifically work for hire agreements and all of that. So that would be a great session to attend if you can make it that day.
Yep.
And I'll include that link to the summit in the email we're sending out after this. Okay, I think this might be our last question.
Okay.
I'm a higher ed librarian. Faculty fear AI tutoring lacks quality, but our human tutoring platform has wait times that cause students to drop off and lacks many subjects we teach, and et cetera, et cetera. A lot of the roadblocks that we've seen. We bought into a new tutoring platform, but decided to disable all AI features due to this faculty pushback. How do you successfully frame the AI as triage argument to faculty to help them see AI as a support layer rather than a replacement? And this kind of makes me think of like our AI chatbot.
Yeah. So I've sat down with many education leaders at a lot of different levels, grade schools, high schools, colleges. I totally understand it. Like I get that there are faculty that don't want to come along. I've had face-to-face conversations with faculty that didn't want any part of this. Um, the way I've explained this, and again, this might be an unrealistic way to approach this, is what is the end goal of why we are providing education? What is it for? It's to create well-rounded students who can get jobs at the end of the day. Like they're going to school to become part of society and the workforce. If you are not taking advantage of every technology that enables them to learn in a more personalized way, to accelerate their capabilities, their critical thinking, things like that, then we aren't doing our job. And so, I mean, I literally at one point told a leader who didn't want to do this, I said, read the mission of your school to me right now. Like, you have a moral obligation. You have a commitment to the parents paying the tuitions to do everything in your power based on the mission of this school. You have to invest in the AI technology. You have to train the teachers. And if they won't come along, you need different teachers. Like, I hate saying that. Like, I don't want to do that, but like, that is just the reality. That is the job we have all signed up for, is to prepare them for the future. And if we are not doing everything in our power to do that, we're not doing our jobs as educators and leaders.
Agreed. All right, that is the top of the hour. We've got 24 questions left.
Great.
So we're going to have a
Ready for
really,
AI
really
Answers
great,
episode, huh?
really great podcast episode coming up. So thank you so much, everyone. I was trying to drop in as many links in the chat as we were going through this, but I will put all of those on the landing pages in the email that you'll be receiving. So as always, thank you, Paul. And
Thank
we'll
you,
see everyone
everyone.
next time.
All right. Stay safe out there if you're in the winter mess like us. All right. Bye, everyone. Thanks, Kathy.
Bye.
Record.